All right, we are a go. Go ahead, Kirsten.
All right, well, I'm going to call this Monday, April 6th, 2026 Financial Subcommittee of the RAC meeting to order. Jeanette, will you do the roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Matt Mathewson.
Here.
Eric Sulwald.
Here.
Kirsten Wangsvik.
Here.
I do not see Claire, so she may be just a few moments before getting on. And FYI, Sheila Bowen has agreed to join our financial subcommittee. She will not be hopefully approved by the board until the 7th, so tomorrow. So potentially she will be at our next financial subcommittee meeting.
Great.
Neat. She's a great addition. I'm glad to have her, definitely. All right, so we'll move to the virtual meeting reminders. Please mute your microphones. This will help ensure that there's no feedback or background noises interfering with the speaker. If a committee member would like to speak, please raise your hand. I'll try and keep track of the order that hands get raised. Remember to lower your hand once a question has been answered and you're finished speaking. When you're ready to speak, please unmute your microphone and don't forget to remute it when finished. And as a reminder, audience members are only permitted to speak during the call to the audience. And this meeting is being recorded to satisfy open meeting law requirements. So with that, let's move to the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, everybody help do this, not just me. All right, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think those are tricky with our lag. With that, let's do a call to the audience. If there is any audience members, I don't believe I see any. So hearing none, let's move towards the safety share. Somebody have a good safety share for this morning.
Hey, Kirsten, this is Art. I'll go ahead and share because my family's had some recent experience with this, but I think it's hotter earlier than normal, and so the rattlesnakes are out. Family was moving a ladder at my aunt's house, and there were two of them in the yard there, and my dad went to lift the ladder, and he didn't even see it. So just I think the safety share is be cautious much earlier than normal. They're a part of our, obviously it's their habitat, but we co-share it with them. So just be safe, picking up ladders, moving lawnmowers and that kind of thing. So I think it was a bit of a wake-up call from my dad.
Thank you for that. Yeah, especially I'm glad you didn't get hurt or anything. With that, let's just quickly, since we've got Jack's only for 30 minutes, let's move to the approval of the minutes. I know that Eric sent in a few corrections. Jeanette, I have a few others.
Okay, hold on 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I got a correction from.
Good.
Hold on. So, Eric, you had your hand up.
Yeah, one thing that I noticed, I seem to have trouble, and I'm not sure why, but the minutes are labeled as January 12th. And so I can't find the January 12th minutes, and I think the March.
No, it should be March 10th. It should be March 10th.
Overlaid on the January 12th minutes.
Nope, it should be March 10th. As you can go see the page headers on the following pages, they all say March 10th. I just put the wrong date. Thank you, Eric. All fixed.
That was going to be my number one, right? Thank you very much. It took me
It's
15
still
minutes.
February at 25, right?
I printed them out and had them here on my desk, and then I spent 15 minutes looking for the ones for March 10th because it said January.
No worries.
12th.
Thank you. What's the next thing?
All right. The next a couple are I just noticed Carollo is spelled
I'll
with an
fix.
E
That was
sometimes.
Matt's.
Oh, good. Okay. I didn't see other ones. And page 6, the action
Page
item,
6.
Miss Lee
Hold on.
will re-forwarded. So just a tense
Re-forward. Gotcha.
issue there. And
Mhm.
then I didn't understand on the bottom of page 7, last paragraph, Mr. Sudwell noted that the county is planning to a bond issue, and there's something going on with that
They're
sentence.
planning a bond issue.
There it is. All right. That's mine. Maybe others caught theirs as well, but okay.
Matt, shame on you. You didn't catch that. Matt
All
is
right.
my fabulous proofreader. I don't know what I would do without him sometimes. Thank you so much, Matt.
So with
Thank you,
those
Kirsten and
changes,
Eric, too. I really appreciate it.
shall
Anything
we,
else?
let's hear a motion maybe to approve them with those changes.
So moved with the changes.
And I'll second.
All right, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, they pass. All right, then let's just jump right into the discussion of the rate workbook financial plan. That is HA on our agenda by Art Turon.
Thank you, Chair Wingzick and members. Pleasure to be with you this morning. I think between my two items, we're going to be pretty short. Reason being is we have yet to be able to meet with county admin due to some unforeseen circumstances regarding one of the DCAs that is primarily not primarily, that oversees both of Jackson's area and my area. He's dealing with some family things that are going on. So we have a couple different scenarios that he's asked for. And I have not yet had an opportunity to go through them, and then he and Jan have not been able to coordinate on calendars. But I think what I want the committee to take away is I don't think there's a very there's not a strong desire, and by strong desire I mean no desire from county admin to increase rates next year or even the following year with respect to what they asked the board to adopt in preparation for this fiscal year. And I think that very much aligns with Jackson's framework, his methodology, and I also think it aligns very closely with this committee and that of the full RWRAC. So Michelle and I are working very hard to make sure that we can structure the incorporation of the Santa Rita facility with it, layer that in within the rate workbook framework that doesn't have us raising rates until the end of that 4 or 5 year cycle that we asked the board to adopt last year, and that went into effect in September, October of this year. So we are working toward that end. As I mentioned, our first rate workbook came with rates next year, and nobody really liked that. So we went back to work. We showed you the second scenario where we extended out just the debt amortization for the Santa Rita facility, which obviously brought down the need to increase rates until FY 29-30 or 30-31. And we have a couple different scenarios where we're looking at, because I think the county administrator wants to be sure that we need to extend out the amortization period of that facility rather than keeping it short into the 15-year window that the utility and the broader at the broader level of county has consistently done. So we have a scenario where we're reducing all of the other CIP aside from the Santa Rita facility, to keep that 15-year debt, or maintaining that 15-year debt amortization. And then we're looking at the 15-year debt only for the Santa Rita and the Interceptor, all other CIP being excluded. So again, a reduction in one scenario is reduction in the CIP at 15 years, and then the other is a full out exclusion of all other CIP at that 15 years. And so I think they just need comfort in the fact that, you know, we're trying to work within the framework of the 15 years. I just don't think it's going to be feasible. And I've told Carmine in the conversations that I've had with him, hey, you know, I understand that you don't want to raise rates, because I don't think anybody does. But when you're incorporating, you know, a $340 million facility into the rate work plan, and you don't want to raise rates, and you don't want to go out 25 years on the amortization, there's something has to give in order for us to make this financially feasible for the utility and for the residents, the residents. And so I think they understand that. And we're working towards the common goal of getting the project in, and being able to afford it from, you know, from the pillar perspective, from the financial plan perspective, and then looking out, you know, what it's going to do to our rates, beyond the 4 or 5 year period that the board had originally adopted. So with that, I'll pause because I see there's three questions that came up. So I'll pause and take questions.
So I'm just wondering if you could explain just a little bit more. I'm trying to understand these two scenarios. I heard trying to reduce the CIP of all other, is it projects, and then trying doing a 15-year, is that for the SWRRF? Did I hear that one correctly? And then the other one is the exclusion of all other CIP. Does that mean 0 CIP projects other than the SWRRF? And do we have a feel on, if I've got those scenarios correct, what other CIP is being excluded, at least on the first one? I don't know. Help me understand those two scenarios a little bit better.
Yeah, sure. So you have the scenarios correct. The first scenario is a reduced CIP. Again, I haven't had an opportunity to sit down and go through this particular scenario that Michelle has left for me, but it does represent a reduction. I don't know how much, and I don't know what projects are excluded, but it would be a reduction in CIP, but maintaining the 15-year amortization period on all of the debt that we issue up to and including the Santa Rita facility, so that we can maintain our rating agency ratio, but also maintain the 15-year amortization period. So that is the first scenario. The second scenario that we're running is all other CIP being excluded. So the only CIP that would be included is the Santa Rita facility, and maintaining 15-year debt only for that particular project, but that would be the only project in the CIP. I do fully want to know, I don't know how feasible that is, because my understanding is there are projects in the CIP that are already ongoing and that have I don't know what they would do operationally if we were to stop midstream in that CIP work. And so that's just full transparency for the committee here. I don't even think that we've run these scenarios through Jackson and Jaime's shop. But it's my attempt to demonstrate to county admin that there's a place where the rubber's going to meet the road here with this particular facility, and trying to make it work. So, you know, that's where that is. But you did hear them correctly. Unfortunately, today, this morning, I'm not prepared to tell you what projects would be left off in the scenario where we're reducing the CIP. But I think Michelle, when we had an initial conversation about it, it was those projects that maybe hadn't started yet, and could be moved. And that's basically looking at, hey, were there any prior year expenditures for this CIP, or is it a new CIP for FY 27? And when we meet again, I'll be able to talk a little bit more about what projects came off of that original CIP list.
Thank you very much. So it sounds like it's a kind of a thought experiment demonstrating the reality of either needing a rate increase or 25-year amortization of the
Correct.
debt
And
for the
that's
SRRF. Okay.
that's really what it is to demonstrate, there has to be a give and take here with respect to trying to fit this in within our current parameters, minus that amortization period. I still believe that's the way to go. But I need to make sure I demonstrate to county admin that that's the prudent financial decision.
I'm going to lower my hand and Matt.
Art, have the RBC guys weighed in on this issue? Are they able to offer some advice that might support the generational equity argument and the sensibility of stretching this new project out to 25?
Matt, that's a very good question. I've talked to Kurt about the 25-year amortization. He's supportive of the idea just because he knows, for a project like of this magnitude, most utilities do go out, at least 20 years on a facility this size, 25. I mean, it's reasonable to go to 30 if you wanted to. He's offered to come down and talk to county admin. I think it's a little presumptive at this point because I haven't even had the opportunity to sit down with both of them and go through the numbers. So if and when the time is needed for him to come in, we will certainly have him come in. He has a really good relationship with Carmine and Jan. He was really instrumental in the development of our Mosaic Quarter development agreement. So they certainly are familiar with him, and I think they trust him. So if the time comes to where I need to call in that resource, he would be more than happy to come in and sit down with county admin and help them understand that 25-year amortization period is perfectly normal in the borrowing world, and the investor community would think it would be perfectly normal to go out 25 years on a facility of that magnitude.
And just a minor follow-up question. Carmine, you said DCA. What does DCA stand
Deputy
for?
County Administrator.
Oh, gosh. Okay, thank you.
Also, maybe along the overly presumptive lines of things, we've got channels to our county supervisors, and if the strategic environment presents itself, we could, soften them up, so to speak, on, the likelihood of receiving a proposal to stretch out the amortization beyond, what they've been
Accustomed to.
Talking about it at the board meetings, and so I'm not suggesting this is the time for that, but please, let us know if the time comes when that might be helpful to hear some positive sorts of input from that direction.
Yeah, I certainly will. I do think I don't know if that's strategically that's the right message to send right now. given that I have not yet had an opportunity to deliver what they've asked for, which is these scenarios to demonstrate, hey, exactly where we are and what this would do for the current year for sure, or for the next fiscal year for sure. But I'm also keeping my eye on what's going to need to happen in 2020, 29, 30, 30, 31. And is the committee going to, be at, because at that point, we're going to have to go back. Like I can only massage the numbers so long before we do have to go back for a rate increase. It would just be outside or back to the more, I guess, of a more regular routine sort of timing for a rate increase, right? We wouldn't be going 1 year after we just asked them to increase rates. It would be, hey, the 4 or 5 year window that you adopted has served its purpose. We've reevaluated the rate workbook and now we need to come back and ask for a different set of rates, because this is going to put some pressure, regardless of how we structure it. It's going to put pressure on our rating agency ratio. So if you're okay, I would say just keep the conversation open right now with your individual supervisors and their offices until I can run it down on my end and show these scenarios to county admin, and we can have a path forward.
Yeah, I agree with that totally.
All right, Eric, your hand is up.
Art, thank you for your candor. I know you're caught in a very difficult situation, and you've got people like me who are pounding on it from one side. You've got other people who are pushing for the other side, and I appreciate you looking at this from a variety of different reference points. I think there's a third one, or at least maybe I didn't understand it. But the third one is delay the project a couple of years and allow us to work on the financial side to build up either a reserve or pay down the debt we currently have to help us manage it as we move forward. I'm also concerned that in the conversations you have to have with the department on what is needed and what they can hold off on is going to be a very difficult set of conversations. I come from a different point of view. I come from a sales side and a lot of my transactions, and I look at wants and needs. And yeah, I want this, but do I need it right now, or can I stretch out and move beyond a time frame? And I just, if there's anything we can do as a committee to help you with that, I think it's important that we continue those conversations. And thank you.
Thank you, Eric. I think that's operationally, I wouldn't be able to speak necessarily to delaying the project and what that does operationally. I think Jackson would be in a better spot, and I know he's got to jump at 9. But I think from my perspective, that is certainly an option we can look at. In today's environment, though, my concern from a financial perspective with delaying a project is, does it become more costly because of quite honestly what's going on geopolitically. I saw a map earlier this morning where several states that are already signaling recessionary signals, and so from that perspective, does our project of 335 million, by delaying it a year or two, does it get more costly in 1 or 2 years? If so, how much more does it increase? So that's what I think about. I'm not saying that would or wouldn't happen, but that's what I think about from a financial perspective, and then having to layer in those added costs into the financial plan obviously becomes more tricky and more challenging. So I don't know if Jackson or Jaime want to chime in from an operational perspective about a delay. And the other thing is, I don't know if the full committee would necessarily support a delay, right? I haven't been privy to those conversations, so I think that's something that you probably need to discuss with the full committee.
Yeah, this is Jackson. Let me jump in because I'm going to have to get off here shortly. But, you know, before I comment on anything that's been said so far, I'm going to have to, you know, get on my soapbox for a second and now give you a fourth option for consideration. And that is this project, you know, it's early in the stages. You know, we don't have a shovel in the ground. We're doing all the prep and planning and all that stuff. And you know, we're still having regular conversations as this project evolves. And if you remember, when we started this project, the department had swagged, and I'll use that term proudly, you know, a $240,000 estimate for a 8 million gallon per day facility, of which the town of Sahuarita was going to pay about 25%. And it's gone from there to where over time, Sahuarita decided they wouldn't be able to participate financially. And so that all fell on us, but they were going to give up a bunch of their DMA, the designated management area, so that, you know, we would have a higher, especially in areas that showed some higher growth plans and potentials and timing, that we would get some revenue, which we never considered exactly if and how you take that into consideration. But nonetheless, that was kind of where it moved to. Well, now with some additional timing, and I just had some more recent conversations, you know, we're talking with people all the time, including we're going to be talking soon with FICO, the Pecan folks, about development and, you know, making sure we're using the latest and greatest information. And I know I'm rambling a bit because then somewhere in that evolution, we got more professional estimates, and our 240 was a bit pale on a 340 estimate for what we had envisioned based on our thoughts. But after this recent discussion with Sahuarita, Jaime and I are leaning towards maybe a 6 million gallon per day facility instead of an 8. And so with that comes some savings on that potential $340 million estimate. But, you know, I hate to just be reactive or try and make some estimate that fits some perfect little scenario we're hoping from a rate perspective. And so we just have to be cautious because, you know, every 6 months we can make a slight deviation or detour because of more information or change of plans. But in a going from an 8 million to a 6 million, you know, it's a 25% reduction in flow, but it's not a 25% reduction in cost. Maybe it's 10, maybe it's 15%. We'll have to get that out there, and we'll have to vet that a little more. And of course, talk to the FICO folks who have a lot of property right in that area that they've dabbled in development for a long time, but maybe they will, maybe they won't. So we'll find out when we get an update from them. But all these things are, again, are very fluid and very dynamic, and they all have impacts. And so I'm just cautioning us that we don't just keep jumping this way or that way. And, you know, there's a lot of, all 4 of these scenarios are excellent to talk about. And maybe there's some combination of all of them. Who knows? But we can't just, you know, run and pick one and like, oh, today we're happy because now it looks like we don't have to worry about these current rate increases, and, you know, we'll figure out what the future rate increases look like. Because, you know, as soon as we do, then just like we're in this boat, you know, 6 months, maybe a year at the most, something else will be different or changed, or the inflation wasn't what we thought, and we're going to have to reevaluate all these things. So I'm just on my soapbox to say a bunch of stuff, but I like doing that and then running because it's now 9 o'clock and I got to get into another meeting. But I'll stop there, and Jaime can, he's it in tag. He can carry on from there. But that's all I have for now.
Is Jaime on the call? I didn't see him per
Yeah,
se.
he's there.
Jaime's
Oh,
on.
Oh, good.
I'm here.
Okay, sorry. I'm maybe just struggling with Teams. In very quick follow up, thank you for reminding us about the 25% that Sahuarita would already do and the DMA. I think a little clarity for the committee and the larger RWRAC on those changes, a little summary on that history might be useful as well. I don't know that I had understood that until you just now said it. There, that's all I had to say. You can run away to your meeting.
Kirsten, you're asking about the background on the Sahuarita participation and
Yeah,
how that
yeah,
ended up.
yeah. And
Originally,
that just, yeah, that summary. I think we hear bits of it, but I don't have a full picture of, oh, it was 25% and oh, DMA that now we're being given in essence some revenue generating portions that will help the department fund some of this. Yeah,
So originally, the town of Sahuarita is running their own facility. It's probably around 2 MGD, and of course, growth continued, and they're maybe bumping or forecasting bumping to their maximum capacity in the near future. So us being in this process of developing a new regional facility over there in Sahuarita, it opened up the possibility for them to have to avoid spending additional funds on their plant by just shifting excess flows in a similar way like we shift flows from Agua Nueva to Terrestrios through the interconnect, shifting flows from their service area to our future facility. And they wanted to participate financially because that way they will ensure keeping their water. Basically, they wanted to keep ownership of their water credits and such. Through the planning process and the budgeting, they, I guess, realized or query their financials more closely, and they realized that they were not going to be able to participate financially. So that's where we ended up, or they ended up basically pulling out financially from the treatment facility, but they say, hey, since we're now in a bind because we will not be able to serve the whole service area, we'll shed a portion of that DMA or service area to the county so you can handle it, and we would keep, or the Sahuarita town will keep just the area they can serve with their existing facility. So that's their kind of forecast or their thought process. So that's where we ended up basically running with the facility as a county facility, and Sahuarita shedding a portion of their DMA with their connection fees and service provider as a service provider to the county for that area.
so I mean,
Don't know if that
follow up.
makes-
Doesn't these, just correct me if I'm wrong, but the DMAs, are they recorded with PAG as kind of the
Yes.
208 planning? So is there like a new map that is somehow recorded that you could
Yes,
point us
so-
to, or
So
anything
that
like that?
we shifted, we're in the process of drafting the agreement between the town and county. That includes a map. So we have asked them, hey, give us your forecast of what service areas you can provide service to so we can basically take the rest. And that's the map that's coming from the town to the county. As soon as we get it, we'll publish it. And they're kind of verifying that the delineations and the boundaries are fitting with their forecasts.
Okay, perfect. I think I had heard rumors of this, like shifting. I somehow thought it was already done. So thank you for explaining that it's in process. And if we could just put a little mini action item that I think certainly the financial subcommittee, but probably the larger RAC would probably appreciate just having that, because that's again one of those paradigm background things that we're just kind of struggling to make sure we have a beat on. Eric, I will yield the floor to you.
Yeah,
Just a brief moment for Eric. So Kirsten, your action item is in the future to get the DMA map from PAG.
Yeah, the DMA map, this DMA restructuring that Jaime is talking about, the map and the agreement. It's just one of those background documents that so that we understand what the SRRF is serving. And how that has changed from the original paradigm. I think that would be an important piece just
Okay.
for records.
Yep, I just wanted to confirm that you were looking for that DMA map. Thank you.
Map and documents agreement. Yeah.
Yeah, Jaime, I hope I understand this correctly, but the DMA that is being proposed and going to be worked on and laid out is really what the county will service and the department will service and wastewater. We're not going to be tying into the Rancho Sahuarita plant and and relieving them of any flow at this time. Is that correct?
No, actually, the town will like to have an interconnect between their existing plant and our future plant. Because they cannot, like everybody is kind of estimating flows and such, they cannot nail down exactly how much capacity they will need in the near future with the current capacity and development. So they want to have that peace of mind, I guess, that they can shed some of the excess flows to our future plant from their plant and avoid having to not be able to develop certain areas because they run out of capacity. So that interconnection between the plants is still in their planning, long range planning.
Okay, so we have both parts. One is the Sahuarita plant that's currently in operation for Rancho Sahuarita will tie into the Santa Rita reclamation plant. And I have got to believe there's got to be some type of financial arrangement with that coming up. You know, are we gonna pay for that pipeline? Is Sahuarita gonna pay for that pipeline? And any flow that comes through, is that metered so you get a fee for handling that flow at our plant?
Those are all good items and things to be planned in the near future. They also had that thought if, of course, expanding a treatment plant is not cheap, and at some point when the time comes from the town to weigh in if they want to spend monies on their facility to expand or just basically shed all their flows and pass them on to the county. That's another option, and that they and us will have to weigh in. It's kind of out there. The facility and the flexibility of having that interconnection allows for all those options later on.
Jaime, in this document and agreement that is underway, is a horizon for this interconnect like being thought of? Is there any understanding of that horizon in these options of them paying the county to shed flow? Are those also going to be in this preliminary agreement or whatever this is?
There's not a date, but there's a paragraph in there saying that the county and the town will work together to plan and construct a future interconnection between the two facilities.
Okay, so I think for the purposes of our committee, Eric, it's just important for us to all get clarity that this is a long-term out option. It is not a near-term add to the finances option. The 25% and any other near-term for the Santa Rita is off the table still, if I'm hearing that correctly, Jaime.
Can you, I didn't understand your statement there.
Sorry. So there's no near-term financial contribution from Sahuarita, even though they want to reserve the right to have this interconnect. There's no money that would come from that in any time
Correct.
in the near future, I think is what
Correct.
I'm trying to drive at. Okay.
That is correct.
Eric, jump back in. I probably walked all over your time.
Oh, you're fine. I mean, it's good conversation and it does give me some background. Jaime, two parts. Number one is if based upon what Art has laid out in one of the scenarios, you would have to slow up or put on hold some CIP projects. I want to be sure that the department is not chopping off a leg trying to save the other leg or something. And I just want to be careful with that, number one. Number two, would it be conceivable? And I don't know. I'm not in the business, but would it be conceivable to go ahead and in the interim, in the early stage, go ahead and work on the interceptor, get that all project moved forward, design, start digging, put it in the ground, and then at the point that interceptor pops up out of the ground and at the new site, that then the plan is started, and therefore stretch out a little bit of the building time so that we can stretch the finances a little bit longer. And Art, you're welcome to chime in too. Thank you.
Yeah, Jaime, let me answer the question about the CIP first. Only because I don't really believe that's a fair question of Jaime at this point, Eric. And the reason that I don't believe that is because I don't know that they even know that this is a scenario that we're going to present, number one. And number two, we haven't shared with them what projects would potentially be off of the CIP list. It would, if county admin did want to go that route, it would be a strategic surgical sort of scalpel exercise, if you will, so that it would not impede projects that are already underway or nearing completion, because I recognize the value in that as well. So I think what Chair Wangswick said earlier in terms of it being a thought exercise and scenario, I believe that's what it is. I don't know that in good conscience that I would recommend that we put on hold the full CIP that they've worked hard to, and projects are already in the ground, or shovels are in the ground, to your point, or we're nearing completion on, because that wouldn't make much financial sense either. So it's more of a thought exercise, and that's why I don't mean to step over your toes, Jaime, but I don't think it's a fair question, because we've not shared that scenario, or we've not shared what projects, in the case of the reduced CIP, would actually come off of that list. So it's more of a scenario. If county admin does actually want to look at that, then we would go back to Jaime and Jackson and say, okay, if the number is $10 million that we have to cut, or $15 million that we have to cut, what projects in your CIP can you move around to accommodate that request? And not to further challenge the committee, but the idea of moving from an 8 million gallon to a 6 million gallon, and whatever cost savings that might bring, that was news to, I mean, Michelle, if you knew about that before, kudos to you, but that's news to me today. So that adds another complexity in our financial planning, because I was not aware of that we're having those conversations. So as Jackson said, this is all dynamic, it's all fluid. It changes with the conversations that Jackson and his team are having with the folks down in Sahuarita. But I'll let Jaime chime in on the sort of the second part of your question, and add any clarity that you may want to on his first question.
Art, just to thank you for the clarity you bring. That helps me understand a lot better that these are all conversations that are happening behind the scenes, and you've got a chessboard, you only have so many pieces, and you're trying to maneuver them into a place that's beneficial for all concerned. I appreciate that very much, and thank you for laying that out in such a very easy way to understand. Thank you.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
thank you for helping us understand that. Sounds like we got 4 options now that are being toyed with. You've got the 2 thought experiments Art brought up, the one that Eric brought up for stretching out the SRRF and maybe the design and construction of the treatment plant, and then this option 4 of reducing the 6 MGD. I don't know. I'm enumerating them the way they've come up so that we can keep them straight. So Jaime, take it away with option 3 and stretching out the CIP, and maybe delaying design and construction of that SRF.
So, I mean, everything's possible. We could stretch it out. And so we're talking about a 5-year design to construction of a treatment plant, probably a 3-year design to construction of an interceptor. So we're saying stretching out for tail to bottom, basically an 8-year period. Is that, Eric, what your thought is?
Eric,
Yes.
were you?
All right, I'll go with that. So
Eric, were you thinking stretching out the treatment plant, like delaying it 3-5 years? I think you're on
Well,
mute. There we go.
if I just understood you, Jaime, and I appreciate what you did, I think I appreciate greatly what you said, that the timing for the interceptor design and build is about a 3-year time frame. The plant design and build is about a 5-year. And so if you were to start the interceptor first, and my understanding is you're saying it could stretch it to 8 years, which would possibly be compatible with the CIP and the financing from our perspective.
okay, it is totally possible to do that. It's not impossible. It's just the timing of and the how everything falls in place. The capacity of Green Valley, which we're trying to switch or switch over to the new facility, will come into play. How are we doing? There's some investments we're delaying on Green Valley because it's not making sense to invest additional funds on a facility that will eventually be decommissioned. So we'll have to weigh in. It's not like a zero savings. There's going to be a need to invest in Green Valley to keep it going, to make room for that delay. So all of that has a play. I guess we can run this scenario, see how that looks, and if it's going to kind of move that needle one way or the other and be beneficial. So I guess that the answer is everything is possible. It's just a matter of seeing how it all fits and if it makes sense financially or planning wise.
Jaime, my feedback on that would be it may be a beneficial thought experiment because people are going to ask the question just in general of whether or not that has been a lever that was looked at. When you said that there was some investments, and that totally makes sense, on keeping the Green Valley plant going, whatever it is, another 5 years beyond what you intended, maybe 10, I don't know, however far out you want to think about it. What are, you must have some that are in your head. What are some of those investments that have been delayed? Is it additional aeration fixes, which I've heard is a bit of a challenge when we were on that tour? What other things? Or give us a quick summary on that, if you would.
So we're butting close to the maximum of the Class A quality treatment facility. What's left is the tangent or parallel lagoon system that we're trying to avoid using for multiple reasons. So if we need to increase the capacity of that Class A system, there's an investment that's going to need to happen. Aeration is one of them, flows and such. So all of those things are kind of playing into the calculus of if we can delay, if it's worth delaying, or if it's better to invest that money elsewhere. And that all runs into that process of figuring out if it's worth to delay or just to bite the bullet and decommission the Green Valley facility and start with a new facility that handles everything,
Right.
including future growth.
So do you have an order of magnitude? Are you talking like $5 million for that aeration? Do you have you feasibility kind of got a ballpark figure of what those delayed expenses might be so that Art
Not
kind
on
of
top
knows?
of my head, but I can find out.
Okay, yeah, it would seem, if you're saving 5 million, if you have to spend $5 million now in order to delay whatever it is, $200 million, a few more years, that versus $100 million to delay 200 million, that would be a complete different order magnitude. So that may be worth at least, giving a wag at, so to speak, so that you can help Art figure out that scenario.
Now, I want to throw out that pushing out the Green Valley facility itself, that blip is a big blip. It's a high expenditure. And so even by itself, if we were not to do an interceptor, just building a new facility $200 million is a blip that it's going to impact the CIP budget and process. So we can play all those scenarios, but my gut feeling is that even if you push it out by itself, that big a blip in the financial matter of the department is just going to have an impact, no matter how much or how little you delay it.
Sure. Just for clarity, I don't think in my head anyway, I'm thinking build another treatment train there at Green Valley. I think in my head, just go so far as to what would extend the treatment train that you have to be useful as a buffer for a time.
Yeah, no, I'm just talking about the treatment facility, the Santa Rita facility itself.
Oh, okay, yes, yeah.
So even if
Building
we
that
do it by
long-term.
itself and
Yes.
move it out and away from the interceptor and just handle it by itself, a $240 million facility or $200 million facility by itself on the system, on the CIP program that already has $20 million of annual maintenance, repair, rehabilitation. So even if you handle it by itself without the interceptor, it's a blip in the budget big enough that it's going to trigger some financial gyrations.
Yeah. Oh, it absolutely will. It absolutely will. I think it's a sense. This is almost like a sensitivity analysis on the larger. So I think the thought experiment Eric is kind of alluding to is if you shave off interceptor and then bring in the blip of the Sahuarita plant, does that stretching out make it more comfortable, allow the 15-year, maybe not have to raise rates quite as hardcore in the near term. I think that's, Eric, if I'm hearing you right, that sounds to me kind of like the thought experiment. You're not asking for it not to be done. You're not asking for the Green Valley plant to be fixed forever and do some other centralized or decentralized scenario. You're just asking for this.
In my limited way, I'm just asking, can it be stretched a little bit to allow, rather than a high slope cost, is to level out the cost a little bit more so that the county's not inconvenienced, the department is not inconvenienced, and yet we get the work done.
I think that's been good additional discussion, maybe somewhat useful for Art. Sounds like there's 4 scenarios maybe to toy with. Trying to figure out on our agenda where to go from here. Are there any other discussion on any of these 4 scenarios, I guess, that have come up today from the committee members? I do not have anything further. All right.
Nothing here.
So with that, I'm guessing we've hit both of our agenda items because there wasn't exactly a budget update. It's mostly been just this discussion, if that's correct, Art. The part B there is really not a thing today.
Yeah, I mean, I can give the committee a high level overview of where we're at from a countywide budget perspective. I think that was sort of the intent of the agenda item.
Okay.
I don't know how many I don't know how many of you are watching the twice monthly meetings, but at the last meeting on March 24th, I gave a CIP update to the Board of Supervisors. And there wasn't really much question around it. So it had funding sources, identified key projects by department. As you might have expected, wastewater is, I think that represents 54% of the total CIP for the entire county. Much of that is the planned Santa Rita facility. So just gave a high level overview to the board. We are planning for the county administrator's recommended budget to be delivered to the Board of Supervisors on Friday, April 17th. So we will be getting a draft memo to the county administrator's office probably midweek to the end of this week on Friday in preparation for the full budget to be delivered on April 17th. That will include the CIP. It will include, our revenues, expenditures, what we're doing for county employees, where we're growing our budget. It does include the Project Blue proceeds of $20.8 million as well. So we are moving right along. The tentative budget is set for May 19th. No, May 26th. May 26th, because they're moving the BOS meeting. So I think it's scheduled for May 26th. So that's where we're at from a budget, from a, countywide budget perspective. The wastewater, again, their supplemental request for 3 million was approved, so it is going to be in the budget. This project is in the budget. And I think the total CIP, Michelle, is what, 98 million in the 27 budget for wastewater. So we have not made any changes at this point. And if there are decisions that are made between now and the time we adopt a tentative, we can incorporate those in between the recommended and the tentative budget adoption in May. So just high level, that's where we're at with the budget from a countywide perspective, and happy to take any questions.
Eric, you have the floor.
Yeah, Art, I seem to remember I read somewhere that the county is looking at petitioning to increase their spending based upon I see your smile, on the state statute, and just wondered if this has any effect on either us. If it gets approved, the county helps the county, but does it have any material effect on the department?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what you're referring to, I think, Eric, is the expenditure limit, the permanent base limit
Yes.
adjustment for the expenditure limit. So it does indirectly. What the expenditure limit is it's really a limit on our revenues, right? So it's a statute that was adopted back in 1979-80. It's a calculation that adjusts our 1979-80 base expenditures with a population growth factor and an inflation growth factor. The EEC, and what that acronym right now means escapes me. But the EEC gives us every year our limit, and we have to stay under our limit, and wastewater is included in that total limit. And so there are exclusions underneath the limit where, if we issue debt or pay debt, those are ways where we've used to mitigate our amount subject to the limit. And so, when we've issued wastewater debt in the past, those all help to reduce the county's total wide expenditure limit such that we meet that limit. We've also used a fair amount of carry forward every year to get below the limit. And so, yes, we are recommending that the Board of Supervisors send to the voters, because it's not a vote of the Board of Supervisors, it's a vote of the people. We're recommending that they put a ballot measure on the November 3rd general election to increase our base expenditure by 70 million in today's dollars. That would give the county enough runway to not seek another adjustment until 2045. So about a 19 to 20 year runway where we would not have to do this in the future. And so how does that impact, wastewater? If there were ever a year where we didn't have to issue debt because of that expenditure limit, we could do that, right? That's for sake of discussion. I'm not saying we would or wouldn't do that. And it also, I think it better accounts for what we're projected to get in revenues from property taxes, from state shared sales taxes, because those aren't exclusionary items. And it allows us to, spend the money that we're projected to get. It doesn't raise taxes. It's not a tax increase. And the board has no more or less authority than they did before on the expenditure limit. It just allows us to spend the money that we're already projected to receive via standard method. standard means, standard methods. And there is a slide, I don't know if you guys saw the presentation, but there is a slide at one point where our projected revenues are outpacing our expenditure limit, which means if we don't get a limit adjustment, we would have to, we quite honestly issue debt in order to remain under that limit and still fulfill the needs of both the needs of the community, the needs of the residents, and the needs of the departments to fulfill those needs. So it does have a substantial impact on our ability moving forward, but it is not a tax. It doesn't give the board any new authority or any less authority. It's not a tax, and it just allows the county to spend the money that we're already projected to receive. And so, actually, let me put a bow on that. We did the first public hearing on that on March 24th. The statute requires us to give 2 public hearings. The second one is scheduled for April 21st. At that time, we are going to ask the board to, in a special session, to adopt the resolution that will put the item on the general election November 3rd ballot. So we're hopeful that we'll get that moved forward.
Thank you. That was very helpful, Art. Matt, did you want to chime in on a topic?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the sort of thing that school districts do all the time. They're always seeking expenditure limit overrides and with pretty great success, I think, over the years. But I don't think the county's ever tried to do it, have they? It just kind of been kind of a boogeyman that I know Mr. Huckleberry never wanted to chase after. And I mean, it seems to make great sense. There's provision for it in the Constitution, and you know, why not give it a try?
Yeah, so I can affirm that the county in the 45 years that the statute has been in place has not sought a permanent base adjustment. So this is our first go around at it. We are doing a lot of discussions with other counties that have been successful. I think there's 7 or 8 other counties across the state that have been successful in permanent base limit adjustments. I know I think Yuma County is probably going to go out for one this year. So yeah, we're talking to them, finding out what their campaigns have been in terms of education and awareness, what they did to be successful in their education and awareness campaigns. I know the town of Marana has done it, and the folks over there have been successful. So we plan on meeting with them. So we're planning a pretty robust communication, education and awareness campaign when this gets sent to the, fingers crossed, when it gets sent to the ballot by the Board of Supervisors.
Yeah, it'll be all in the marketing, I think, and yeah, sales to the voter so they don't see it as a tax. It's not going to affect their pocketbooks.
Correct.
Yeah. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on what Art has elucidated for us here? Helped us understand. All right. If not, moving on to our financial subcommittee meeting schedule, which kind of ties into our future agenda items. Help me get a feel for this. So you're going to go back and have some more of these scenarios, discussions with the county administration. Jaime's maybe going to run some numbers and give you that third option as something to toy around with. What can we expect? I mean, there'll be a rate workbook eventually out of this. Our committee should maybe meet when there's either more information based on these scenarios and a rate workbook, or somewhere in the interim.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Kirsten, if it's okay, let's put something on the schedule for the week of April 20th.
Okay.
And I won't, I promise I won't waste the committee's time. If there's very little to meet on, then we'll just cancel the meeting. But I would rather err on the side of scheduling the meeting and not needing it than needing it and not being able to pull one together. Plus,
Okay.
I think there's timing requirements to get it on the agenda. So
Yeah.
Jeanette does a really, really good job of
Doodle
seeing
poll.
what my calendar availability is looking like and running me down on that. So let's schedule something for the week of April 20th
Great.
as a tentative date. And we hope to have more to share at that point on which direction we're going for FY27, given the scenarios I've outlined, and then the one that the committee has requested today.
Perfect. Thank you for that suggestion. I didn't know where to take it, so I appreciate the solid recommendation there. Any further discussion on that? Does that sound fine to all committee members? Okay. And the future agenda items, we'll just leave that as a TBA based on what Art has to show us regarding rate workbooks or these scenarios and what came of them. So with that, I will suggest then, Jeanette, do you want to weigh in on any of that? Does that sound fine?
No, that sounds good. I will get Jackson's availability and Art's availability, and I will do a doodle poll. I will try to get the doodle poll out tomorrow or Thursday at the latest, but it will be this month. Excuse me, this week. Good
Week.
Lord.
The week is young. This is the first meeting of the week.
It will be this week. It's just, getting responses back from everybody. Art is, of course, awesome. So, well, I'll get that to you guys shortly.
Excellent. All right. With that, let's move to call to the audience. I don't believe there's any other audience members, but hearing none. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.